Coming up, 60 minutes of top-class snooker from some of the world's greatest players, including me. An hour of Matchroom's magical breaks.
Well, it's been an interesting year in the world of professional snooker. We've seen the sport open up to bring in 628 new players. And of course, the existing stars are going to be under a lot of pressure trying to keep their place at the top of the snooker tree. Steve, it's been an interesting year for you as well, to use your favourite word. And which players did you think made the magical moments? Which players made the contribution to the sport of snooker in the last 12 months?
Well, I think there's only one person who had a successful season all round. Stephen Hendry had a superb year and really came of age.
What are his strong points?
Well, Stephen's got a very good rhythm around the table, and when that rhythm's working very well, you gain a superior confidence from that. And if you're striking the ball well, and then you actually start to get into that rhythm, which is really what the game's all about, the same as any game's about timing with a ball, you get in a routine. And Stephen Hendry last year started to get into a routine where you knew that the balls were going in the pockets, and any player in that situation is very hard to knock off the pedestal. And he produced that rhythm last year.
Does he have any weaknesses?
I think every player's got weaknesses, but when you are actually striking the ball well, those weaknesses are much harder to crack open.
Which means that Clark needs a snooker.
$75. 76. 83. 84.
Hendry's got it in mind to try and set a big target for the highest break prize.
$91. 92. 99. 100. 106. 7.
Just grazed the pink slightly, which is the ball that he was playing for from the red. $113. 115. It was a good pot on the pink at a thin angle. Good putt on the yellow from distance.
180.
And if the world champion knocks in the remaining 4 colours, it will be 140.
122. 127. 133. 140.
So Stephen Hendry rounds off the match with a superb 140 total clearance. That'll take some beating for the highest grade prize.
So, Steve Davis takes the first frame, leads 1.
Seven. 8. 15. 16.
Well, he won't have a better opportunity than this of getting one back on his old enemy, who happens only to be 21,
22.
Young Stephen. It's a long time since he savoured the sweet smell of success against the Scotsman,
3.
but surely he won't let this opportunity slip.
Twenty-eight. 29.
Slightly wrong side of pink. The white will be going away from the reds, so taking the blue instead. And has retained almost perfect position. And I think this red slips past the bottom side of the black, and it really should be plain sailing now. 57 points in the lead, 67 points on the table. So this black and one more red.
$42. 43.
Now this has been a rather devastating onslaught by Steve Davis. Must be said, of course, of these best of 7 frames, it's a little bit like sudden death.
50.
There's a great benefit to the player that gets in first, but in actual
51.
fact the player in first was Stephen Hendry. But ever since that moment in time, it seems to have been totally one-sided.
58. 59. 66. 67. 73.
Wouldn't it be lovely? He could finish off the championship with a century
74.
break. Well, it's not to be, but he's certainly done enough to win this match. Stephen Hendry walking across to shake hands with Steve Davis and conceding victory to his old enemy. So, for the first time since September 1989, Steve Davis gets one over his old enemy.
Well, nice to end the season with a win against the undisputed #1, certainly after the season Stephen Hendry had had. Something else was different in that tournament as well, which we've not seen before.
Yes, the introduction of cameras in the backs of the pockets. Although the early prototypes, the ball was actually hitting the camera, that made a terrible sound. But I think it's good for the viewer to see different camera angles. Possibly the only thing left now is to actually have a camera taped to the cue.
Well, worm's high view of snooker, but let's go on to Jimmy White, because although Stephen Hendry was the undisputed #1, Jimmy had a really hot spell during the season, didn't he? Won something over £500,000 in prize money. And of course, Jimmy's still been packing in the audiences up and down the country right through the year.
The #1 draw in snooker, phenomenal player on his day, and proved it by winning 2 of the biggest money tournaments there's ever been, and got himself out of a situation where people were asking if he was going to win. Good performance, good character builder, and could have spurred him on to greater things, although he didn't win the World Championship finally.
Biggest strengths of Jimmy's game?
He's got the ability to play well even if he's not been playing well. He can just turn it on like that. He's like a tap. Can't do it all the time, but when he does do it, it's very effective.
Mio 3 frames to 2 in front. Remember, all 8 frames are played tonight.
11. 12.
Good opportunity, building up a useful lead, this for Jimmy.
20.
Yes, and I have a premonition this could be a big one.
27.
Top break in the Matchroom League
28.
this season is 95. Came from Jimmy White's opponent tonight.
$33. 34.
This problem will come when he has to break up the reds.
Yes. I don't know whether that red at the top of the pack will pot.
There's your answer.
It does. And Jimmy may choose to split the pack off the black here.
$49.
But, well, he'd have hoped for a bit better than that.
And red in the centre pocket.
50.
Slots in nicely.
Played with consummate ease.
He already has
57.
Tony needing snookers.
$58.
And even when you play Jimmy in numerous matches, even when you're his opponent, it's a joy to watch him when he's in full flow.
64.
Bet you're not thinking that to yourself, John, when you're sitting in that seat watching him.
$72. 73.
Yes, I'd like to have a bet that Tony Mayo's break's going to go here.
80. 86.
Yes, possible break of 113 on. Oh.
Yes. 88.
A rueful smile from Tony
91.
Meo there. I think he knows his break's going to be beaten here.
Jimmy White, 91, and the frame.
We had a great game from the season. Nick Ewing's in the best of 11 frames in the Cathay Pacific Asian Challenge. It was a real feast of big breaks, and I think you'll find that there were a few occasions there where we saw the very best that snooker has to offer.
We certainly did that.
That's a fine shot from Davis, not only to pot the red but to develop the black. As in the first frame,
8.
a scoring opportunity becomes open quite soon. Davis, of course, is a master around the black spot. He once said that the key to successful snooker was to have a high percentage of pots on the easy ones, and he very, very rarely makes a mistake when in prime position.
70.
Steve, of course, has won 6 titles,
24.
6 world titles, plus 54 other major titles in a career which has spanned 13 years since he turned professional. The 1990-91 campaign wasn't his most successful by any means, but he still won £310,000 in prize money. That's 4 reds and 4 blacks, and Steve's still in good position. He missed a quite vital pot with the rest in the first frame, but there was no mistake. The break reaches 40.
40.
He will now be trying to get into the black in such a position that he can possibly get into those reds to develop them into a more open position.
41.
Yes, he's getting into the cue ball, so obviously this is quite an important shot in the break. He makes contact with the reds and looks to be in reasonable position.
48.
Taken 6 reds and 6 blacks before this, so obviously a maximum is still possible, and that's why he chose to take the more difficult red into the ball pocket instead of potting it into the middle. Back perfectly on the black. Davis now realising that he's got a chance of the magical maximum.
56.
He got into the cue ball slightly too much there and put a little bit too much reverse side on it, which meant that the white ran a little bit too far for his ideal purposes. But he's cleverly used the reds to hold the white on the black again, and this is looking very promising indeed. Steve, of course, holds the distinction of being the first player ever to make a 147 break on television, the Larder Classic.
$65.
These chances don't present themselves very often, and when they do, you want to take advantage of them. This red will put Steve safe in the frame, but I'm sure his prime objective at the moment is to make that 147.
73.
I think I detected a slight kick on the white there. It obviously hasn't affected Steve. He's perfectly in position still on this red.
81.
That's the 11th red. And the 147 inches closer.
$88. $89.
Davis hasn't put a foot wrong so far in this break. The only problem would appear to be the red on the right-hand side of the table.
$96. $97.
No sign of any nerves in Steve's cue arm. He was very, very straight there. Well, there's the century. That's one landmark achieved already. He now needs another 8 pots.
$105.
10 pots, in fact. But he's still homing in around that black. Steve trying to go behind that red to play it back into the top pocket, and he's knocked it into a very awkward position.
112.
Should he pot this red, it will be a tremendous recovery. Oh, very, very close indeed into the ball pocket. And the break ends at 112. That was 14 reds and 14 blacks. So Steve Davis breaks off, attempting to win his 4th frame in succession and win the match 6-5. Prospects certainly looked bleak for the 6-times world champion when he trailed 5-2, but he's produced breaks of 72, 51, 44 and 56 in the last 3 frames and is now on level terms. Well, Davis has certainly got the first scoring opportunity in the deciding frame. Another reckless lunge from white there. past experience of Davis will no doubt stand him in good stead in this frame.
Seven.
He'll take his time.
$14. $15.
Davis started the match very, very well indeed. He made breaks of 112 and 90 in the first 4 frames, but from 2-2, White went into a 5-2 lead, and the writing looked on the wall for the 6 times world champion.
22.
Davis has come back very strongly, and he's made a very good start to this deciding frame.
$23.
White unable to do anything, just sitting in his chair, hoping that Davis misses.
$28.
Well-controlled stun run through shot there from Davis, growing in confidence with every ball potted.
$36.
In goes the red, the break reaches 37. Davis slowly but surely accruing enough points to snatch a remarkable 6-5 victory. That's 44 on the board already.
$45.
In glows the blue. That's Davis's 6th half-century break of the match.
$51.
Well-controlled shot there. Perfectly on the black. And things not looking good for Jimmy White at this moment.
58. $59.
In and out of bulk with the blue. Perfectly
64.
played by Davis.
$65.
So this pink would leave Jimmy White needing snookers.
$71. 72.
So it appears that Davis has won this last frame decider in one visit. The break reaches 72.
$79.
I don't know whether Jimmy will get out of his chair. It just remains to see whether Davis can finish in style with another century.
$87. $88.
That's a superb shot from Davis.
94.
Just developing the two reds.
95.
So another three-figure contribution from the Cue of the world number 3. Can he go on to make a total clearance? The last red fails to go in, but Jimmy White offers his hand in concession. Steve Davis, the world number 3, completes a superb 4-frame fight back to win the final match in the Asian Challenge 6-5.
Steve, it's been a big year for snooker, hasn't it? 600 new professionals, and I think perhaps even more important in the long run, the role of women in snooker. We've seen the 40 Hotels Women's World Championships grow from strength to strength, and now we're seeing girls compete with men on level terms in their own events. How far can they go?
That's going to be difficult for to really know. I think the women's game has progressed dramatically over the last 5 years, more so than I thought it would do. And for Stacey Hillyard to actually have qualified for the latter stages of a professional tournament is a milestone in the women's game. I think the problem probably lies with the amount of women playing, and there's not enough in the clubs compared to the kids playing the game. So even if there are going to be in the future some great women players, percentage chances of those being the ones that get through are diminished.
The First Lady of Snooker, Allison Fisher, 4 times world champion. We saw her in action this year in the London Masters. A little disappointing with her in the World Championships, not reaching her 5th final.
Yes, I think she's possibly suffering the expectation of winning syndrome. And even though she's produced some great snooker over the years, it doesn't get any easier, and she may sort of benefit from a couple of years in the professional game to get her game back together again.
Well, let's concentrate on Allison Fisher for a few moments, Steve. We've said how she's won the World Championship on 4 separate occasions. Look at her in action against Jimmy White in the Continental Airlines London Masters.
The black on the side cushion
13.
up there doesn't help Allison Fisher's course. she's having to concentrate on the pink. It's only one less point to go. If only the red to the right of the pink was out of the way, the task would be a little bit more simple. And I think she's on it now.
20.
I think she can play a little cannon onto the red to the right of the first red, and that should leave her the pink into the middle pocket. Perfect.
Seven. 28.
Yes, you may have just seen that. The white ball, as it struck the pink, just seemed to leave the bed of the table just a fraction, and that stopped the white ball running truly onto this object red. So the referee has been asked to clean it. Allison getting ever and ever closer. The deficit now 15 points.
35.
Now Allison had a 45 and a 37.
41.
In winning frame number 3. This break currently stands at 41. And she just has screwed an extension piece to her cue, and a little stun shot, maybe drawing the white ball back just a fraction to be on the pink, and the right angle to get onto the last red. That's the first little job done.
42.
The angle seems absolutely perfect. Dropped into the left-hand side of the pocket off the top cushion, which indicated she just struck it a little bit too thin, and that's caused the white just to get out of position by a couple of inches. Instead of being able to play this red leading across the side of the table, she's having to play it with the rest, and this makes it very, very much more difficult. This is a crucial ball. She's one behind. Oh, that's a great shot. That is really a great shot.
49.
Just have a look at this. Didn't even touch the sides. She's showing tremendous composure, as Allison, but she's still got to make sure she doesn't make any mistakes. So she's 6 in front.
55.
So if she can take a couple more balls, it'll be Jimmy White that's going to have to take on the black down that cushion rail to win.
$57. 60.
She needs the brown and the blue. Just having a look around at the scoreboard. Don't bother about the positional side of this, just make sure of the blue, Allison. Ooh, she's overcut it.
Allison Fisher, 64.
Well, the 40 Hotels Women's World Championships, of course, is the blue ribbon event of the women's game. Allison didn't make the final this year, but Stacey Hillyard, the #1 in the world, had the highest break in a match against the eventual winner, Corr.
Should you not be tight? I think not. Should it...
1. Eight. Nine. Sixteen. 17.
Well, this is a good frame for Stacey. She had a 39 break earlier.
$23. $38. $43.
Well, that's the highest break of the match so far, 43 to Stacey Hillyard. Still 4 colours to come.
$47.
Well, that was a great pot. With check side. She's really opening out now. This is great
52.
stuff from the world's #1.
has the county championships. In snooker we have the 40 Hotels Matchroom League, and of course this year we saw Tony Drago, James Wattana as the players coming back into the league. Wattana's been something of a breath of fresh air on the professional circuit.
That's right. I still think he remains an enigma in many ways. He's able at some times to produce some phenomenal snooker and outplay anybody in the game. And at the moment, the next frame can be a total disaster. There is an element of inconsistency there, but he's brought a different type of game. I mean, you could say it's the Asian game, or it just may be him, but he's certainly a very fluent player and lives up to his nickname.
.22. .27. .28. .35.
In 2 of his previous matches this season, James has been less than 100%, suffering from the after effects of chicken pox on one occasion and a severe bout of jet lag on the other. But absolutely no signs of anything wrong with James tonight.
Absolutely on fire at the moment.
41.
And when he puts this red to go onto the black, 2 reds, the cue ball has just
42.
gone past, will now be open into the same pocket as the black will be dispatched into.
.49.
Position is superb at the moment.
50.
Shows the standard of snooker, Jeff, when James hasn't qualified for Sheffield.
57. .58. .65.
And all he can do is sit and admire and await his turn.
.66.
Very questionable whether Steve Davis will be getting a turn in this frame.
No, he needs snookers already at this stage.
74.
Well, a break of 104
80.
in the first frame, and every chance that he can better that.
81.
Little short on the blue this time.
.85. .86.
Well, what a treat for this crowd at Aylesbury who came to watch Steve Davis, and all they can do is wonder at James Wattana.
Absolutely fantastic. 2 frames of snooker from James. Can't play any better than this. And if James can manage to clean up here with this black, he'll get the highest break in the Matchroom League, which currently stands at 135 with Jimmy White. This will be a 136.
109. 100 Miller. 123.
A little straighter than he would have liked on this pink.
And so, just the black to make this the best break in the Matchroom League this year. That will do very nicely indeed for James Wattana. An exhilarating start to the night here at Aylesbury. Wattana, 104 break in the opening frame, and now a break of 136 in the second frame. He leads Steve Davis by 2 frames to 0.
Well, we've seen the inclusion of hundreds of new professional players, the fact that women are taking up and hopefully taking over the game. I suppose the other significant change in snooker currently is the spread of the sport right through Europe and the type of players it's brought to the forefront. The one that comes immediately to mind, of course, is young Tony Drago from Malta. He seems to be even quicker around the table than the whirlwind himself, Jimmy White.
Yes, I think Tony Drago is the fastest ever player we've ever seen. He's got a computer-like brain when he's amongst the balls. Doesn't worry too much about safety play, although he can play it very well and to a very high standard. But the speed has got to be believed when you're playing him. Sometimes you don't even get a chance to think and you're back at the table and you're 50 points behind. That's quite 51. Unnerving when you're used to playing perhaps some slower players. But he's matched with Jimmy White in the European Matchroom League, was the fastest ever 8 frames in history. And I think the referee went out at the interval and invested in a pair of roller skates.
37. 40. 41. 48. 49. 56. 57. 64. 65. 71. 72. 78. 79. 85. 86. 91. Johnny Drago, 91.
Well, Steve, when we look back at the magical moments of the last 12 months of snooker, there's one that sits in my mind, and it wasn't a match. It was perhaps the reason that people enjoy snooker over the world, and that's the entertainment value that goes into snooker. In fact, it was a trick shot, and it was performed by you in Antwerp, if you remember. I know you've played this shot 1,000 times, and I think this, my memory serves me correct, this is the first time you've ever got it. For me, this is the best way to end a look at snooker and the entertainment that you and all the snooker players around the world have given to the millions of snooker fans.
On an English snooker table, it's very difficult. But if I play the shot 1,000 times in front of an audience, one time it will work. They're the odds. Yellow in there, pink in there, green down the bottom, brown over there, blue in there.
Yes, Steve.
Really, I'd just like to ask for one thing of that. I'd love a video on PAL. It's like, I'm going to show that to somebody, they'll never believe it.